There is a mindset out there that either you've got it or you haven't. There's also this concept that what used to be determines what will be, that your past determines your future. Today, I want to share a very special story with you that illustrates the fact that, you know what happened yesterday has no impact on your future. Anything is possible if you're willing to do what it takes and put yourself out there. Welcome to the Authority Journey podcast. Achieving your most audacious goals doesn't happen by accident. Explore the authority journey and what it takes to influence, lead, and succeed. My name is Kathryn and I'm your host today for a very special episode, The Courage of Success. Today, I want to tell you a story. The man is Marcus Bullock. Today, he is the founder and CEO of Flikshop. But many years ago, at the age of 15, he was just a kid hanging out with the wrong crowd, and he stole a car. Now, you steal a car, you're going to face punishment, granted, but the kid was 15 years old. And it just so happened, timing was against him. Just a few weeks earlier, it was decided that 15-year-olds could be tried as adults. And there was no doubt that Marcus was guilty. So that wasn't the issue. The issue was that at 15, Marcus was put into maximum security prison with adults. Imagine experiencing that. Imagine being a kid. Yes, okay, you're making bad decisions, but you're suddenly stripped from your support group. And maybe you were rebellious against them, but now you need them desperately, and you just don't have them. Instead, you're in this scary place with scary people trying to figure out how to survive. That's what happened to Marcus. Now, you think about what might have happened. I can imagine the average person, and they give statistics that say that most people go into prison, well, they come out worse. They've learned bad habits. Marcus is a really special story because it was while he was in there that he actually decided to get his life straightened out. He decided that what happened in his past would, as much as possible, not influence his future. He was determined to turn things around. Granted, he had some help. His mother sacrificed everything to be there for him. Every single day, she sent him a card or a call or something. And this got really expensive because there are a lot of surcharges with those phone calls. And she ended up having to actually sell their home or apartment. I'm not sure where she was living, but she ended up having to move to a much less expensive place in order to make ends meet so she could meet this goal that she set both for herself and for him, for them to stay connected no matter what. Now think about this. You've got your kid in prison. You know deep, deep down there's good in him, and you really want to bring it out. She had to sacrifice everything to be there for him. And it did make a difference. We see today that difference in a very successful businessman who overcame against all odds. You'll get this from me. I love overcomer stories. And this one I just think is so beautiful that, I think it's worth telling. It's worth getting out there. So let's look at what made the difference. When he was in prison, he had two people who really influenced him. There was an inmate named Tony, and he was older by about 10 years. He was serving 15 years. Marcus was serving 8. And Marcus says, when we met, I was getting into fights in the yard, and he told me, "You're too smart for this. You still have a future." Now, think about that. I remember as a kid, my brother going to second grade, and every single day the teacher told him he was stupid. Sent him to the back of the class, didn't invest anything in him. And he came out of there thinking he was stupid. When an authority figure tells you something negative about you, You tend to believe it, especially when you're young. And here is this 15-year-old kid who's been told, you are a menace to society, you are a bad person, you're going to maximum security prison. We don't have grace for people like you. That could have scarred him. So here's this other prisoner who speaks the opposite over him. You're smart. You have a future. Marcus had the wherewithal to hold on to that and really internalize it, to let that heal the negative things that had already been spoken over him. And I think that's a really important step that all of us need to listen to. And you know what? If nobody else is speaking those positive words over yourself, you can speak them over yourself. I go around the house all the time. If nobody's listening, I'm telling myself positive things because there are a lot of negative words that have been spoken over me that I would like to undo. Well, apparently Marcus did that too, because he did turn things around. The other person, believe it or not, Jay-Z. And Marcus says, when I heard his first album, he was rapping about how to be a successful businessman with a non-traditional path. Marcus was on a non-traditional path, but what he heard, again, he internalized. Just because something bad has happened to me, just because I didn't get to finish high school, just because I got thrown into prison, does not mean I can't be a successful businessman. These are important messages for us to hear. Marcus goes on, he didn't go to college, but became a millionaire. Jay-Z gave me permission to believe that I could be a successful entrepreneur. Has anyone ever given you permission to do amazing things? It can start with yourself. Give yourself permission, for goodness sake. You have permission to excel every dream you have ever thought for yourself, to overshoot every goal you have set for yourself, to be bigger and better than anything anyone ever expected. But you have to believe it. And Marcus believed it. I'm so proud of him for being in this negative environment and latching on to these positives. A mother who believed he was worth being there for. Another inmate, Tony, who told him he was smart and had a future. And a rapper, Jay-Z, who said, yeah, you can be a success. You've got it in you. Go for it. That's what we need to hear. That's what we need to understand. And shoot, if a kid can do it from prison, you can do it too. That's the thing to remember. Now, when he got out of prison, he understood how much his mother had sacrificed. But now he was faced with a new problem. As a returning citizen, this is something he calls people who are coming out of prison. And I think I love that because it's a much more respectful way to call them. They're returning. They are citizens, so they need to be treated like people. But he couldn't get a job because who wants to hire a felon, right? You have that coming against you. Well, he finally got a job mixing paints. And he realized, for me even to hold this job, I can't make a mistake. So he did his best to learn everything he could about paint mixing and ultimately started his own contracting business. Now think about that. He's having to go door to door selling. But get this, one of the things he says is, I'm so used to being told no from prison and from his childhood likely, that it doesn't faze me at all. I can knock on doors all day long and hear no. And I just go to the next door. That's resilience, isn't it? That's one of the reasons he is where he is today. That willingness to hold on to the positive that was spoken to him, the willingness to let go of the negative, and the willingness to just stick to it and just keep going even when it got hard. That's amazing. Well, that business succeeded enough that he was able to do the thing that he ultimately wanted to do, and that is to help returning citizens gain the life skills and entrepreneurship that they need to succeed. He also wanted to be there for the other prisoners, the way his mom had been there for him, help other families stay connected without having to give up everything to do it. And that's what Flikshop is. It is a tech company that connects families with their incarcerated loved ones. And then when they come out, he's got the Flikshop School of Business, which helps returning citizens regain their lives. I think that's amazing. But again, think about a felon out on his own trying to start this. How many people do you think would have been willing to invest in him? Well, it helps that at first he didn't even know that he could go after investors. So he funded this 100% himself up to a point. And then, I forget who it was, somebody believed in him and also wanted to help returning citizens and invested. So now we have a very successful businessman, someone who has exceeded all expectations. And he's making a real difference in the world. What an amazing story, right? Well, I look at this and I'm looking at it in terms of our authority journey. The journey that we get on in order to, take life somewhere. Instead of sitting in the passenger seat and just going. Wherever the car goes, we go. Getting in the driver's seat and deciding where you want to go and getting your life there. He had to be very intentional to go from a 15-year-old in prison to a successful businessman. He had to get in the driver's seat to make that happen. He could have just let the winds blow him around and he would have been at home. I can't get a job. Life is hard. Woe is me. But no, he did what it took to achieve his goals. That's amazing. But that gives him some authority. He lived life in prison. He knew the experience. He knew firsthand what a challenge that could be. Now, here's another thing he had to do. In order to leverage that, he had to go public with his story. He talked about, in an interview I read, going door to door to sell. He would have to go into people's homes to sell the paint job. Well, imagine if they had known that he was a felon, would they have been willing to let him do that? And at that stage of coming up of his success story, he wasn't willing to let people know his past. So there was a degree to which his past created fear and insecurity. It's possible it made him feel a little bit of imposter syndrome. We've talked about that in the podcast. But he persevered, and ultimately he earned the money to start his passion business, Flikshop. Now, at this stage, his story is a bonus. His story is what gives him authority. It's the thing that makes him a force to be reckoned with. Who else could know that this is a need? Who else could sell this app than someone who was there? And in order to sell the app, he had to go to wardens of prisons. What courage to tell his story, to go back to a source of pain and talk to the people who could very well treat him as less than because of where he comes from. But instead, he stepped in as an authority. I've been here. I know how hard it is to succeed. I want you to help them, and I can help you do that. What a story. What an authoritative step. Just to step into that place of insecurity, that place where you don't know how you're going to be received, and to say, I've got something for this moment, for this place. I can make a difference, and I want you to listen to me. He did that. Can you? Can I? We need to do that. Authority takes courage. And building something takes courage. So let's look at how he did that. And I love this because this really is the formula for success. And I will probably talk about this a lot, but I love how his story illustrates this very thing. First, he chose his audience, the people he wanted to help, and that was people who were incarcerated and returning citizens. Then he focused on solving a problem that they already care about. The people in prison can't connect with the people outside of prison without it really costing them. So, connecting families with their incarcerated loved ones. That's a problem that already they know about and they care about. They want the problem solved. How many times have you, I know I have, I come up with a business idea and it's all about me. It's what I want to create. I'm not even thinking whether somebody else knows that's a problem. It probably isn't a problem. It's just something I want to create. It's kind of a selfish way to approach creation, especially something we want to put a price tag on. Well, he didn't do it that way. He knew there was a problem, and he knew people knew the problem and cared about it. There were people who wanted this problem solved. He also knew no one else was solving it. If anything, they were taking advantage of this situation to create more profits. So here he has the people he's going to help, the problem he's going to solve for them. That's the basis of a foundation. That's the foundation of a successful business. Right there. If you can figure out who you're serving and what problem you solve for them that they care about, you're halfway there. From then on, it's all about execution. So he's got the win-win solution. Now it's just a matter of getting known. What did he do? He went and knocked on doors. He went and talked to prison wardens and convinced them, you need to try this. This will make a difference. This will help the prisoners go back into life and not come back to prison. And once they tried it and they saw the difference, word of mouth kept things going. So those first initial hard steps, okay, fine, they're hard. But life gets easier. Once you see a little success, success builds success, builds success. That's how it is. After that, it's customer service. Give your audience success. Make their life better, and you've got it made. Isn't this a great story? Talk about overcoming and achieving. My two favorite things in the world. This is a man who started so far behind. He started at zero, and he built something fantastic. I wish to goodness that, I wish I could have had this mindset, this passion for something from an early age. And sadly, many times this kind of passion comes out of hardship. But he had the creativity. He had the gumption to take that hardship and remold it into something really special. Let's make it our mission to do the same thing. Whether you've had it easy or hard, there may be something out there that you are passionate about, that you can take to the world and actually help them with. But remember, you've got to treat it like Marcus did. Don't listen to the negative things people are saying. Decide what you want to do. And you get in the driver's seat, make it happen. That's where authority happens. Then, find your audience. Give them a win-win. It's got to be a win for them and a win for you. And they need to care. Then just execute. Knock on doors. Let people tell you no, and just keep on going. Because you know what? If you care enough about the solution, you'll care enough to keep pushing through. That's my story for today. I want all of us to be a little bit more like Marcus. Imagine the impact we could have on the world if we cared about something that actually helped people and we did whatever it took to bring it to the world. What an amazing story. Let's do it ourselves, okay? Today, if you loved the story and if you want more, I want you to subscribe. And if you need help with building your own authority, you can visit me at KathrynAragon.com. I am available to coach, to consult, and to help you get your authority message into the world. But first, start by subscribing to the Authority Journey podcast. Stay awesome.